Welcome to the Cross Discussion. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in for another week. Today, I'm one of your hosts, Cody. Today, we've got a really special episode. We've got Jayden here today with us. He's going to be, obviously, normally he hosts with us. Today, we're going to be interviewing him. He's going to share a bit of insight about himself. A little bit scary for you, hey? Yeah. So we're going to be exploring, obviously, you and your story and that sort of thing. So I've known you, Jayden, for really long time.
6 years.
I don't even know how long.
Something like
point.
that.
Yeah. Kind of growing up in church. I never really went to school with you. It was just kind of growing up in church with you and that sort of thing. I've known you through church. And obviously gotten to the point where we've started that group called The Lads. It was a group of us boys who have come together for like Bible study, all through youth group and that sort of thing, which is kind of a good milestone, I guess, kind of.
Kept me really accountable.
Kept each other accountable, which was really cool. We're just going to ask you a couple of would you rathers. I'm going to rapid fire. Hot seat.
Okay, sure.
We're going to rapid fire the would you rather questions for you. And I've got one at the end that I've written myself that we don't actually have in any of the prompts.
I don't know if that's a good thing, Cody.
No, it's not. It's a bit of a doozy, that question.
Okay, all right.
So really quickly, rapid fire. We've got a minute on the clock. Time starts now. Would you rather? There is no Would you rather wear formal attire or pajamas for the rest of your life?
Pajamas comfortable. Pajamas, we'll go with that. Okay,
pajamas.
Sure.
Would you rather it always be hot or always be cold while you're trying to sleep?
Cold.
I agree.
Yeah.
Would you rather have to sneeze but not be able to, or have something stuck in your eye for an entire year?
I hate it when I have like sand stuck in my eye at the beach.
Okay, we'll take that one.
We'll do that.
Would you rather the ability to stop time or the ability to fly?
Fly. I think we talked about this in episode 1, but yeah, pilot, love it. It's good stuff.
Exactly. Would you rather teleport randomly once a year to literally anywhere on the planet, or be stuck in a 6-hour traffic once a year on a random day?
Stuck in a 6-hour traffic.
Stuck in 6-hour traffic.
Or like teleport randomly.
Or teleport randomly once a year.
Well, I can see the world. Let's go teleport. Although that could be a bad decision. That could be. We'll go with it. Yeah,
it's a lot of
both of which I think are bad.
Yeah. A lot of ocean.
Yeah.
Stranded in the middle of the ocean or the desert?
Ocean, water.
Deep. You can survive because you're drinking, I guess. Would you rather be in isolation for a year or constantly surrounded by people for a year?
I mean, Lexi survived in COVID. She talks about, so we'll go with isolation. Let's do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Calling Lexi out that one. Hey.
Yeah, I mean.
Would you always know that you smell but not be able to smell it yourself, or always smell but no one else can?
Sophie, I went to school with Sophie, and I got a lot of comments on not smelling great. So,
You're doing better now, though.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll take that one. I guess.
We'll do that.
You don't know that you smell.
No.
All right. That's right. He does stink here, by the way.
Yeah.
So.
I tried today, guys. Okay. Sure.
All right. Would you rather have no fingernails or have nails twice the size of your finger length?
We
Once
also
again-
pointed out we're having really long fingernails.
Yeah, it actually got really bad once I was at work.
Who wrote these? Someone's got something against Jayden.
Once I was at work, and they were like, someone said to me, "You need to cut your nails," and that was my turning point. So, I mean, yeah, sure, yeah. Anyway, we'll go with the short nails. Yeah.
True. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or a horse-sized duck?
Oh, this is our classic one. Yeah. Okay. I'm a firm believer in the big duck, and I think although it could be a challenge, ducks are aggressive. I just think all those horses running around, that's crazy. I can't take that.
True. I feel like the big duck should be like the name of a fast food restaurant or something like that.
Or like one of those big things in Australia. It has like the big.
Oh yeah, true.
Really
like
big,
pineapple, banana. That sort of
we
thing.
could do a big duck.
True, big duck.
Cool.
I know what that's got to do with like Australia. I mean, same thing with like I guess banana and a pineapple.
Yeah. It's
Whether dog on the talk about that's not really.
No.
Yeah, no.
So,
All right.
What was your question, Cody? What was
My question, my would you rather question was the doozy one.
Yes,
Right?
I'm aware.
So,
We do have like talks before the show for those listening, and he's been hyping this one up, so I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Would you rather leave your occupation, leave what you want to do, so Navy in your case, leave your family, leave your friends, leave your location, leave your church, leave everything to grow your faith substantially? Mm-hmm. So more than you've ever grown your faith ever? Mm-hmm. Or stay exactly where you are, but your faith stays exactly how it is?
I think this one's planned. We'll get into that. I'll go with option 1. That's what I'm gonna go.
We all knew you were going to say
Let's do that.
sounds like Thailand mission trip.
Yeah. That was a lot of foreshadowing right there for the episode.
Yeah. I wrote that one
I
myself.
like it. Ingenuity.
Let's just say.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to a question segment. Obviously, we're going to ask you a couple of questions. You're going to answer them. We're going to get a bit of insight about your testimony. You're going to share a bit about yourself, and hopefully, we're going to have a good discussion about that.
Sounds good. Yeah. Cool.
So, first question, obviously, what was your early childhood like? Have you always been a Christian? How'd you grow up?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I've been really lucky to grow up in a Christian home. So I think for the last couple I think my grandparents was where they became a Christian one day. Yep. And that's kind of been in the family. Not all my family's Christian in terms of extended family, but my normal family, it's really been great. I've been in Bible study and stuff as a kid, so I don't know. I know all the little stories and that kind of thing from the Bible. Well, not stories, historical facts from the Bible. And it's been great. I grew up in a small country town, and I think that's I don't know if Grafton's small. That's where I grew up, but really loving parents, love me, care for me, support me. One of the biggest things they actually moved to the Gold Coast for was to give me a better education and to be able to support me there. Big thing for my dad. Loves country towns. He loves that kind of thing. So it was a big move for him. Yeah. But I've been really lucky to grow up with them. So cool. And I have a nice brother as well. Yes. He's actually behind the camera.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Anyway, Brad, love him. Anyway, he's great. We talk and keep each other accountable. Cool. We do talk. Yeah, we're in a family. So
there is still a bit of conflict though sometimes. Hey?
Yeah, we can not talk about that. Yeah. I mean, authentic. That's what we are, right? Me and my brother have arguments.
Arguments.
Let me just say that obviously I've seen both sides of your relationship with Brad. Obviously, the fights that you've had and that sort of thing, but also your fellowship as brothers and that sort of thing, that brothership, and that's really inspiring.
Yeah, 100%.
Personally, I wish I had a brother. Sorry, Mia.
His sister is also behind.
And my sister is also behind the camera up there. But obviously, in saying that, just you boys, the lads and that sort of thing, all from church, I would count as my brothers. So I kind of have a bit of that.
Yeah, cool.
Next question. What do you think has been the biggest blessing to your life over the years?
Yeah, so I graduated recently. Me and Sophie graduated not long ago. And I remember I started to think about, reflect. I think that's something you start to do when you move to a new phase in your life. And I remember always being told, when you're in school, you're in this small pond and you're going to go into the big world. And you won't be a big fish anymore. And I was really thinking and looking back, and the biggest thing I think I'm really grateful is that I've had a lot of really good role models and influences in my life. One of them is a guy, got a few teachers, Mr. Gill, Mr. C, my dad. One of them is actually coming on our episode later in the series. Really good men of God who really model it out for me. And so my family, heaps of other people, and even having you guys, the lads, like we were talking about, and Sophie and my other friends, I've got these amazing people who try to be more like Christ. And we were just talking about arguments, me and my brother, and you guys, we make mistakes, we fight. But I've got these people around me who support me and have helped me see Jesus. And that's probably the thing I'm the most grateful for in my life.
Yeah. Cool. Really cool to hear.
You're all right.
Oh, thanks.
You guys too. Yeah, okay.
I think so as well.
Yeah. Okay. Humility.
Lord forgive me. When did you first start to wrestle with your purpose and identity?
I think, once again, I was talking about this in episode 1, but, obviously, they talk about it in Alpha 2. When you start to grow up, you start to look into the bigger questions in life. Yeah. And I'm not discounting my faith as a kid at all. I knew Jesus, and I definitely think I was a Christian, but I think as I started to become a teenager, I started to really delve into that for myself. And I particularly remember a phase that was about year 11. We talked about this before in the Would You Rathers, but I wanted to be a pilot for a long time. This thing called the MAF, it's like a mission organization where they go around and fly. And that was something I strived to be a part of. Joined Air Force Cadets. Love it. Really recommend for anyone online if you're in Australia. It's an amazing organization to be a part of. But pretty much through that, I got the opportunity to go solo in a plane. So you go to RAF Base Amberley, which is in Brisbane, and you go there and you get trained up for 2 weeks, and you literally go from no flying experience to solo. So it's a pretty cool experience. I went through a rigorous application process, but I got in, and I was really excited for that. But pretty much whilst I was there, I got this email from these guys called CASA, which is like the Australian Safety Authority for Flying. And pretty much I had kind of lost my right to fly for a little bit. And I went through a phase where I was wondering, am I ever going to get that right to fly back? Am I going to be able to do that? Yeah. And I think during that phase, I really although I would have said my whole life my identity was in Christ and in Jesus to people, I really struggled. And I think I started to see there that maybe my identity had been in a few other things as well. And I went through a phase where I struggled with that for a bit. So, bit of a long story, but that would be my first real time I remember starting to struggle with it. Yeah.
That's cool. Do you think it's easy to put your identity in things like your status, jobs, and your relationships and that sort of thing?
100%. I think it would be good if we could talk about this one as well too. But I think, yeah, definitely. Like even for someone who grew up as a Christian, but I think doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not. I think when you're in a world where you're striving to do things, you might end up putting your identity in them. So for me, that was flying. And although originally I started wanting to do it for God, I think a bit of it started to become for me. Like I wanted to become like Maverick himself. I wish I had like aviators in my pocket, but yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And I think I kind of lost sight of why I was wanting to get in that, to serve God.
Yeah.
And but I think it's just a really easy thing to do. Like, even at school, I think a lot of the time I'd get really sucked up or caught up in thinking about, what do people think of me, and being this really good. I was privileged enough to be school captain, but I got really sucked up in trying to be this really good school captain that everyone really admired and thought about. And I think for a while my identity became into that. But I think it's really important, for me anyway, I found it important to keep my identity focused on Christ because, when I was putting my identity in flight, that can fail, right? For me, it did for a little bit. I lost my right to fly for a while.
Yeah.
That identity was gone and I was put in a pretty rough place. But the only thing that I think remains constant in my life, obviously I've moved, I've been to different places, but Christ has always been there. I think there's a verse in the Bible, I don't know the exact verse, but he's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I'm pretty sure. Or it might be a song, I'm not sure. But yeah, the general principle is, he's always there, and he's been great to rely on. So yeah, that'd be me. But what do you guys think? I think it's pretty easy to get caught up in.
I was just going to comment on what you were saying, like even seeing your progress throughout the year, I definitely have seen a shift in you and how you've gone from, I guess, kind of being caught up in how you are perceived by others to now. I can, even with your current situation, which you'll get into later, you definitely have put it all to God and you're not worried about, You even said, I'll be happy to just be a cleaner all of this year if I have to be.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Yeah. So I totally agree with it.
Yeah, I saw throughout the year with you where you were putting your identity in as well, is where you were putting your thoughts into. So, me and Jayden often talk about, what we're going through, what we're thinking about. But, when you were thinking about, Air Force or whatever else, you would, be talking about the Air Force, you'd be talking more worldly topics, you'd be thinking more about self-centered. And then when you kind of had that switch to go the other way, things were about other people. You had this, passion for God with there. And then that also later on was, wanting to do things for other people. I know with Christmas you were saying you weren't saying, oh, let's hang out for Christmas. You're like, okay, let's go and serve for Christmas. Let's New Year's Eve, let's go to a soup kitchen, let's do all this kind of stuff. And so you could just see where you're putting your identity in was where your thoughts were, where your passions were, and where you were going for.
So I mean, this will probably resonate more with the Christian audience. Obviously, we have both, but something I also struggled with even recently would be putting my identity in even being a good Christian type thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really easy thing for anyone in the church or who knows God to get sucked up in. And for me personally, you can sit there and you can be doing devotions and all this stuff, and you're going and serving even. You're thinking, although you just want to better yourself, it's coming down to you. How can I better me? Yeah. And in the end, that even though it doesn't sound inherently wrong, it's still a bit of a selfish motive. That's what I've come to find anyway. It's actually really cool. Back in episode 1, we talked about those guys we were talking to at the beach. And that guy I was talking to there actually taught me a lot about this. And just realizing that instead of looking at me and how can I be a better Christian, I think what I'm going to start to try to do now is how can I just see Jesus more? How can I see God more and serve him more? And I think if I'm just praising and looking to him, like I was saying before, once again, I don't know if you're a Christian or not, watching this for anyone who is, but when you just look to God, it's the best feeling you can ever have. It never lets you down. He's always there for you. And I know it can sound like some kind of far off thing at sometimes that people just talk about, but it says in the Bible that if you knock, the door will be open. So if you seek God, you will find him. And I put that out to anyone. I put that out to my friends all the time. If you sincerely want to know God, he will reveal himself to you.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I reckon that is the best place to put your identity. You can get lost in these other things, but in the end, they fade. And he's always there. It's a big thing for me.
Yeah, and you're kind of talking about where you put your identity and being a good Christian. And like, it's really that we shouldn't be seeking for good Christians. We shouldn't be seeking for works, but relationship is the main thing. And seeking our relationship with God. And then from that, the fruit or what comes from it is works. It is being good to others. It's kindness. It's
But
caring.
God renews you there.
Yeah,
like, you don't have to be a good Christian to be accepted by Him. Hey, Christians sometimes do the worst thing. It's like Paul in the Bible, right? Like, we know about him. Like, he originally was called Saul. He killed Christians.
Yeah.
That was his job, right? He went on to write half the New Testament. So if he can be forgiven, God can forgive anyone, and He will forgive anyone.
And
If you
God
put your
will
identity
give you
in
your
Him.
purpose as well. You don't sometimes have to get so caught up in what is my purpose. God gives it to you. So yeah.
It literally changes hearts. It's
Yeah.
so cool to see. Like, I've seen it happen so many times. Growing up in like a public school and that sort of thing, where I've kind of just shone God's light in my life to other people. They've seen that and they've gone, I kind of want to do what that guy's doing. It's a big thing, obviously, having, I like to think of it as like your identity is a hole that you're born with, and you choose to fill it with specific things. Like if you choose to fill it with something of the world, then that's your choice. You can use that as your identity. But then there's some of us who choose to fill it with God and spiritual, like Christian, that sort of thing. And that's where like your identity comes to be something that's under Christ and that sort of thing. So something cool to think about. Yeah. Jayden, next question. What prompted you to further hand your identity and future career path over to Christ?
Yeah. So I always remember this. So I was pretty selfish at the time, I'd say, looking back. Like, I just wanted to be an Air Force pilot. Like, that was what I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do. I'd been in Air Force cadets. I kind of lost sight of the MAF and serving God.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, I remember being up in my bedroom window, I think, not 100% sure on the details, but I said something along the lines of like, God, this is what I want to do. It's what I'm going to do. And if you don't want it to happen, you're going to have to stop me. Dangerous prayer. Let me just say that, because there's a real God, and He heard that. And I'll never really know, I don't think. Maybe God will reveal it to me if it was linked to it or not. But I ended up having, like, not straight away, but a while later, like a little bit of a pain in the chest. And this was before the flying camp that I was talking about, by the way. And went to hospital, got checked out. The chest pain was nothing, just muscle related. But while I was there, they found out about this heart condition I had called a right bundle branch blockage. Right. So pretty much to explain, like, if your left bundle is blocked, this is what the doctor said anyway, not good, it's like game over. But the right bundle kind of means that the right side of your heart's just a little bit behind the left. Doesn't really affect me at all. They told me it wouldn't. But obviously when the civil aviation safety have already heard about a heart-related issue, they're like, yeah, nah, we're done. Yeah. So I was on this camp when I got those results and I couldn't fly. But the big turnaround for me was actually losing that thing I was putting my identity in the world. Once I lost that, I was forced to really think about who I really am and what I really want to achieve. It was actually really funny because I remember sitting in my room at night and I just had this feeling. I knew that, like, if I said, God, I want to give my life to you, I just kind of felt like everything would resolve itself. Not sure why, it's just how I felt type of thing. Yeah. And not 100% sure if that was God or not, but I just felt that, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. Like, I was that attached to wanting to be a pilot that I could not bring myself to say, God, have your will in my life. And couldn't do it. But one day I did. I remember I did. Yeah. It was the most overwhelming sense of peace I've ever felt, the peace that comes with God. And, you know, like, I don't think being a Christian, you're always getting these feely experiences that you hear about all the time. But in that moment, I did. And I remember I just felt like things were going to be okay. And once again, it's not like straight away, boom, they sent me a medical file, you can fly again. That didn't necessarily happen, but it did happen. I got the right back to fly, and I went back to cadets, and they let me go solo, and I got all of that. And, you know, even right now, I'm not sure if God never wants me to be a pilot, and I'm getting into what I'm doing in a second, in some of the future questions, I think. But I'm not sure if He never wants me to be a pilot. Maybe He does, maybe He doesn't. But what I do know is through that whole situation, God used it, even though it was a bad thing, He used it to realign my focus on Him. And, you know, I lose that focus all the time. Every day I struggle with sin, we all do. And I lose sight of God. But in that moment, He just reminded me, I am His, and He loves me, and I'm His child. And from that moment on, I can genuinely say, I don't want my will for my life. Like, if God doesn't want me to be a pilot, and I'm not sure if He wants or doesn't want me to do something, but if that's not His plan for me, cool. Because, you know, in the end, I would prefer to have the plan of the living God who sent his son to die on on a cross for all our sins, his will for my life has got to be a lot better than what I think his will is for my life. And so yeah, moving into the future, I've just kept that in mind, and I still love planes, still love flying, and maybe that's his plan for me, but see what happens.
Yeah, so obviously you've kind of gone into depth about how that's affected you when you've given your plans to God and that sort of thing. That was actually the next question, but you kind of answered that with that one there.
Yeah.
So obviously just explain a little bit about, since you've just graduated literally just last year, what's happening for you now? What's kind of your next steps?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in this weird situation right now. Ended up not passing flying testing. You have to do this testing stuff to get into the Air Force as a pilot. But I ended up going for this thing called an aviation warfare officer gap year. Well, that pretty much is a fancy term for it. It's like a gap year following the guy who like controls a helicopter in the Navy. So that's what I've been going for throughout the year, really wanting to achieve and be in. But I'm actually meant to join in 7 days from now, but I'm still being held up medically. Surprisingly enough, not because of the heart stuff. That took a while to clear, but I had braces and had to take them off. But anyway, it's been a process. But right now, I'm meant to leave in 7 days, but they haven't sent me any approval. I don't know what's happening. And it's been, not gonna lie, a little bit stressful because, you know, I can't really make plans. Like, right, I can't get a job. I have one, but I can't go looking for another one or trying to get more shifts. I can't. One thing I've been looking into doing is like mission work overseas, actually with Jake, potentially in Thailand type thing. But I can't really sign up for anything because I could be leaving in 7 days. And one thing I'd say is without Christ, I reckon I'd be stressed out of my brains right now. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where I'm going, that type of thing. But the thing is, when you've put your identity in Christ, which is once again something I struggle with every day, you can see that who you are isn't defined by what you do and where you go. So I can see, you know, if God wants me, I used to work at Macca's. If God wants me to work at Macca's forever, sure, I'll work there. If he's going to use me there, that's cool. If he wants me to go be Maverick in the Air Force, cool, I'll do that. Wants me to do Navy gift year, I'll do that. So right now, although I don't know what's happening with me in the next 7 days, I know that no matter what, when I look at the character of God and I see this guy who forgives people, even though for thousands of years, if you look at history, we've just kind of given him the finger. We've been rude to him for thousands of years. We've defied what his laws are. We've tried to be our own gods. But he still looks at us and says, no, I'm going to come die for you. I love you. I want to give you a chance to spend eternity with me, even though you don't want to. When I look at that God, I know that that will is what I want for my life. And once again, I don't even think God's will is necessarily a job role. We're talking about that today. But I think God's will for us is to, what he says in the Bible, to love God and love others. And I know that if that's in the Navy, God will use me there. And I know that if that's one thing I'm looking into is teaching, he'll use me there. And so yeah, I've gotten to this point where I'm pretty content with where I'm going. I still struggle, and in 5 days' time, if I don't know what's happening, I'll probably struggle. But I know he's there to pray to, and I genuinely believe when he prays, he hears, and when I pray, he hears, and gives me peace.
I just wanted to encourage you as well. Like, even today I messaged you and I was like, have you been accepted yet? And you're like, no, but like, it's all fine. Like, seeing you today, as much as someone can just say, yep, my identity's in Christ, you truly have displayed that, especially over the past like few weeks. Like, I could not imagine that this has been your goal for so long, all throughout high school. This is what you've been talking about, and to be this close and still this unsure, and you don't seem stressed. You genuinely have so much peace about this whole situation. So that's even encouraging for me and my future and whatever I'm going to end up doing, which I have no idea. So,
but he's got you.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a will for you, and you'll find. I don't think it really matters where you go. I'm a pretty big believer in that. I don't think, although some people get called to certain things, I think God will use you wherever you are.
Yeah.
Because you love him.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Honestly, it's always inspiring just seeing obviously what your walk with God has been really inspiring for me personally, just for the amount of time that I've known you for. So,
and that's the thing though. It's a walk, but I like an analogy Paul uses in the Bible where he says, you know, we're running a race. And something I used to do with one of my mates a lot was running. I was a big runner. And when you're running and you're training, you know, sometimes you stuff up. You might eat something you're not meant to. You know, you might miss a training session. You might want to stop when you're in the race. It gets pretty exhausting, but you keep going because you know there's a greater plan and a greater purpose. So that's why I love that analogy Paul uses, because I think it really just sums up the Christian life. You know, me personally, I've struggled with yesterday with my identity being a good Christian instead of just following Jesus. And I struggle with it all the time. But I'm on a race, I'm running it, and sometimes I stuff up, but God pulls me back on the line. And I think that's funny identity too. I think it's running that race. And you know, you might go somewhere you're not meant to, you might fall off the track, but in the end we know we're running to this eternal prize with our Creator. And I think that's pretty cool to remember when we're looking at our identity and purpose.
Yeah.
Just looking at Him.
Yeah. So cool.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Cool, Jayden. That was really, really good insight onto obviously your testimony and your walk with God and everything like that. So that was really, really inspiring to hear.
Thanks, Kurt.
Unfortunately, that is all we have for today. Jayden, you're really good with analogies. Are you able to think one up? You've been eyeing that bonsai tree off for a bit, just really quickly. You know,
I just thought it was pretty cool.
Or...
Obviously, this is episode 4 and we haven't talked about it yet, but we have a bonsai tree sitting in the center. I
Crazy.
think it is fake, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just ruined that on the camera.
No.
But we're all about being authentic. So.
No.
do you want an analogy with the bonsai tree?
If you've got one.
Yeah.
If not, then I'll just wrap up. But it's up to you.
I think in life, right? You know, we're kind of like a tree. You know, we're growing, and sometimes we know where we're growing to, what we're growing for. Sometimes we don't. But in the end, I think being a Christian, you might not necessarily know how that tree is going to look, but there's the person, the gardener, which is Jesus, and he's trimming it away. Like I think you've seen on the movies, they trim at bonsai trees and that kind of thing. Like actually, it's kind of like the evil guy with the cat usually, and he kind of trims his bonsai tree. Saw that in the movie once, but God's not evil. Bad analogy. But anyway,
Jayden, all right. I take back what I said.
but anyway, continuing. God's the gardener, and you know, He trims at us. He's trimming away at the branches, and I think if we just allow Him to work at our lives and we give our purpose and identity to Him, we'll end up looking like a fine tree, like we've got sitting in
Like
front
that
of us.
one, the fake one right in the middle.
The fake one. Yeah.
It's real.
The
by
Bible
way.
has many. The Bible has many analogies about God being a gardener. By the way, I think it's.
Yes.
I kind of.
I know that tied in.
I copyrighted
Yeah.
that from that book right there.
There you go. That was pretty good. I think that's a good wrap up, I think, for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, everyone online. However you've joined, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, you can find us anywhere, really. We say this all the time, obviously. If you've got any suggestions, if there's anything you want to add and just any feedback for us, just pop them in the comments or even just go to our Facebook or Instagram if we've got Facebook. Instagram. Drop a comment there. We'll have a look through. We'll actually try and implement what you've mentioned and we'll try and add those into our episodes. And same thing with the Would You Rathers. Obviously, it's something we like to do. Just give us a couple of questions, some things that we haven't asked yet.
Would you rather not give us a question, or would you rather give us a question?
There you go. Say it for yourself.
That wasn't funny.
There you go. We're not going to use that one. Thank you. Thanks for joining us again today. I guess that's pretty much it. Yeah, let the discussion begin.